Welcome to the Third Win channel, where today we're going to be exploring what might happen in Season 3 of iCarly, and you won't have to take my word for it because we're going to be taking a look at an interview with Nathan, Cress, and Miranda Cosgrove, where they describe things like what they want to see in Season 3 and what might happen, who might return, so it's pretty exciting. So let's take a look at it. The first question given to Nathan and Miranda in this interview is what they would like to see in Season 3. And before we look at their answers, it's just important to remember that these guys are super involved in the writing of the show, so what they would like to see is probably very likely to actually happen in the show. Let's start with Miranda's answers.
I'd like to see Mrs. Benson have a relationship. I feel like that could be fun. I like seeing her with Lubert, even though it is kind of gross.
It's fun that Miranda mentions the relationship between Lubert and Marissa because the Season 2 finale has a deleted scene where Marissa says, you know what, let's give Lubert a try, and is like picking up the phone to text him or whatever, so it seems like this is a very realistic thing for Season 3. I was thinking of making a whole video with that deleted scene and Marissa and Lubert, so I think I'm going to do that, doing a whole video on their kind of relationship and what could happen, so I'll save it for that. We get a second answer for what Miranda wants to see in Season 3, and here it is.
I'd love to know, what happened with Carly and Spencer's mom. And also, what happened with Freddie's dad?
Now, this one is really interesting because they would have to write a story for the parents or what happened to the parents in ways where it's kind of like they have to consider the original as well, because Dan Shannon probably had a completely different idea of what happened to the parents to what they will write now. But nonetheless, it'd be really interesting to find out what would happen to Freddie's dad and to Carly and Spencer's mom. Now let's hop over to Nathan's answers, and there are quite a few more that he gives, which are, some of them are pretty exciting.
Time to answer that question. We don't really have much choice, so we can't ignore what just happened during that last scene. So it's gonna be spicy.
Now, obviously, that's the big whammy. What's gonna happen with CREDDIE? And I love how aware they are of what it is right now and how we have to kind of guess what's going on there. But it seems like they've acknowledged that they have to deal with it this season, which is incredibly exciting, and I hope that it goes the right way. So yeah, let's move on.
At least for Freddie, I'd love to see more work problems for Freddie, more between Freddie and Millicent, kind of growing that father-daughter relationship.
So obviously Freddie had a very difficult Season 1, and Freddie had a very kind of easygoing Season 2. So it seems like Nathan wants to find a balance between the two, because he did kind of like when Freddie had more challenge. So he wants Freddie to overcome more obstacles, have more development with Millicent, which I think makes sense and is fair enough. But I do kind of like it when Freddie has it going well.
Have Spencer doing his stuff with the restaurant, Harper having more opportunities to style people, maybe getting cool guest stars.
It seems like Nathan wants everyone to kind of develop their careers, Harper with being a stylist and Spencer with his restaurant, so I think that's fair enough. I think that seeing more of these situational work hurdles to cross make for some nice filler episodes, but they don't really fill out the story the way I want it to sometimes. So now let's move over to the second question that the interviewer gave, which was, I think, an even more exciting question, which is, who would you like to see come back in Season 3 from, the original show? Let's start with Nathan's answers this time.
I would love for Chuck to have a little bit more action there. That was not enough Chuck for me.
I totally agree with Nathan here. I absolutely love the character of Chuck in the original and the small bit we got in the revival, so I'd love it if they made him more of a recurring character for Spencer. It's just such a fun character, and I love the actor and everything. Nathan did also give us one more answer, which kind of caught me off guard because I'd forgotten this character.
You know who I want, who I feel like would have a really interesting story, is Rip-Off Rodney.
That's right, Rip-Off Rodney. And you know what? These smaller mini characters, I think it's really fun that they're even considering them and thinking back at the show and really looking at it in detail because, yeah, some fun episodes could really come from them. Now let's hop over to Miranda's answers. And Miranda gave us a full 5 characters she wants to return in Season 3. And one of them in particular has me very excited.
I'd love to see Boogie come back, who played Tebow.
It seems like it's not completely impossible for Tebow to come back, even though the Groovy Smoothie's gone, which I think is really exciting because he was a big character in iCarly. He was one of the characters who appeared the most, so I'd love to see Tebow return.
I'm a big Mrs. Benson fan, more Mrs. Benson.
I'm so glad they secured Miss Benson in the show because she really does elevate. I love the Miss Benson love from Miranda, and I totally agree. Like, have her as a regular. Now, this next one gets me too excited, okay? Like, just take a look.
I know we all love, Noah Monk, who played Gibby on the show. He's hilarious.
Miranda wants Noah back. I think everyone wants Gibby back, right? But I think it's a big deal that she mentioned him in the interview, because she would never mention Sam or Jeanette, but she mentioned Noah as, at least something that she'd love to see back. So maybe, not even season 3, season 4. I think we're gonna see Noah at some point, and she wouldn't mention it in the interview if it wasn't possible. So that one in particular I find very exciting. We get one more fun character mentioned. Here it is.
Also, the doctor was always prescribing us medication.
Oh yeah, who lived in the building.
I also love the doctor. I think he could fit perfectly into the show now. Who knows what the actor is doing? I don't know, but that would be a fun one too. Now let's move on into the third and final question the interviewer gives, which is the reaction to Josh Peck being back and how it was working with him in this season. Let's start off with Miranda's answers.
A good full circle moment, because when I was 8 years old, the first thing I ever did was Drake and Josh. I got to be on Josh's show.
I never thought of the dynamic that Miranda was on Josh's show and now Josh is on Miranda's show, so that's kind of fun.
I'm really close friends with Josh's wife, Paige, so I just love him and his family. And
it's great to hear that these old co-stars are so close and that, that she's friends with Josh's wife. Now let's take a look at what Freddie answered.
The words that come to mind are dream come true. I've looked up to him forever as a young comedy actor.
So he goes on to say, of course, that it was a dream come true and he grew up with Drake and Josh and probably the Amanda show as well, which is, makes sense. Those shows were so funny. Now Nathan has a pretty interesting story that I had actually never heard before, so listen to this.
Interestingly, I was in a bit part episode of Drake and Josh that basically I was playing the same character as Freddie, so because it was a kid who was in love with Megan.
It's pretty crazy that Nathan could have been in Drake and Josh, but I think in the end it's quite good that he wasn't, obviously, because he got, his own show with Miranda, and it would have been maybe a little confusing seeing him fall in love with Miranda's character in Drake and Josh and then also in iCarly. So it's good that it didn't happen, but that's really fun. I didn't know that would happen, and the whole directing dynamic between Nathan and Josh is also really fun. Good that they got to direct each other at different times. So that kind of wraps up the interview, but let's just run it down real quick with the facts. Nathan addresses that the CREDDIE question will be answered in this third season and they have no choice. He also mentions that he wants Freddie's character to go through some more difficulties. Also, it seems that Nathan wants to see Chuck and the character rip off Rodney back in the show again. He also mentions how he loves working with Josh Peck and he almost was in Drake and Josh. While Miranda wants to see a relationship between Miss Benson and Lubert, as well as Carly and Freddie's parents finally showing up. She also would like to see Tebow, Miss Benson, Gibby, and pretty much anyone, including the doctor, return from the original. She also mentions how Josh is a close friend as well as his wife, and that it's really fun that it's gone full circle with him being on her show and her being on his show. So that's a quick recap. I thought it was fun to go through this interview and see what they thought themselves, because it really indicates a good direction for iCarly and that they're thinking about the original and they're thinking about exciting things to come. And also we finally get an answer on CREDDIE, and maybe we get Gibby back. A lot to take in. But this has been the Third Win channel. I hope you enjoyed this little information dump about what the cast wants to see. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow with a daily video, and peace out.